Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm GM Minh Le here, and this is another game of speedrun. So as I mentioned earlier to you guys, now I am 1400. I will try to stick to I think one opening for white and then one or two for black mostly, so that I can explain to you the ideas over these lines, over what your opponent can try and play against you, right? And also, you know, I can go deep with you guys about these ideas. Obviously, you guys can still try to suggest to me what you guys want to see and what you guys want to learn the most. I will take a look at YouTube as well later on. So please also give your feedbacks and give what you want to see as well in some next videos, right? The plan as usual is that I will play a game of 10 plus 0, where I will try to just take a look at the game, explain to you my thinking process, and trying to explain what are some typical mistakes that can be made in these levels. After the game, you can feel free to give me questions. I will try answers. Also, sometimes I will also give you some questions myself, and I hope that you guys can find this as something interactive, instructive, fun, and worth learning in the same time, right? Last thing, just ignore about the donation fund you can see on the screen. It is the fund I'm creating on my stream about the New York City trip this December. Obviously, if you find the video instructive, I'm so glad and so appreciative that you guys can donate to me something, but obviously you can just forget about the things. Sure. Okay, so let's try to go to the game right now, and let's see that we can go for things. Let's go. So here we are black here against the Philippines guy Romy Martinez. E4 he play. So now, as I mentioned earlier, I will play E5 literally every game with black. Obviously I can play C5 or like some other things, but I will play E5 this series. Maybe later on. No! Okay, he stopped actually. Let's play somebody else. But maybe later on I can play like C5 or in another videos. Okay, against D4 I play D5 myself, which is what I play the most, right? D4, D5. Okay, so now what we see here, you can see is called the London variation, right? Which I mean I'm also quite known for. I think it's also quite a nice idea here to play against it and know what I think should be the best way to play for black, right? So there are many ways to play for black nowadays against this. And for me, if you play black here in this line, the best idea is here to try, and the simplest option here is to play e6. You can also play here, on okay, but this one for me right now is the simplest option, e6. Knight f3, and now it is the best to play c5 right away. Knight f6 here is playable. This is also available, but most of them are different a little bit here, and also I think more complex. So let's play c5. Start the attack on the pawn here right away. It can damage and it can block this bishop development. The bishop can always go for here later on if you want to. Also, the bishop here can even go to like here and here in the future. So the bishop here, although it looks a bit passive at the time being, it is actually doing fine. E3, defend the pawn, I go queen b6. That's one. It is what I'm doing right now for black. I think so. Against the London variation. I play this one against even some strong players like GM Andrew Tang, even Hikaru, or some strong players, and I found that black is doing quite well. So by doing this, I want to emphasize the fact that white did develop bishop to f4 earlier, right? And this pawn on b2 can become some sort of weakness. Obviously, white is still doing okay here, but I find this one as like a very easy way to play for black, without allowing any kind of tricks, which I will reveal later on after the game. Well, I can give you guys some different ideas to play against Lin later on. You can also find the video that I did mention about like the anti-Linen repertoire in my channel, right? Which I will link it down below. But overall, overall. So that's what I play lately, and I find this one is like a pretty good way to deal with London variation. But obviously, I would try to mention some other ideas, some other possibilities you can play, you know. So now, while starts thinking and considering this option, you can play b3, you can play queen c1. Some players they play knight to c3 to just ignore the pawn and go for some initiatives in the meantime. But okay, black is fine in almost everything. What are your thoughts on playing one opening at lower level of chess? Very common stuff. For me, so it is nothing wrong with that, because in a level of chess, especially some like below than 1000 rating, you don't have much time to just learn chess, right? And some players there, they just like play for fun and only play after working hours, so they don't have time to learn lots of theories. So you cannot ask them to learn theories or learn opening things like so deeply, right? So play something easy, something that they don't need to learn a lot. I mean, London is a good example, isn't it? It's actually a very common thing. That's why people they know about how boring London can be, they still play it because it is such an easy line to play, right? And for me, it is understandable for sure. Somehow my opponent feels like he is stalling things for quite a long time here. Obviously he can play various steps, but okay, knight c3 he play. Nice. This one actually is pretty good move here. The idea here is that if black gets greedy and play queen to b2, I can play knight to a4 or knight to e5, with some annoying pressure. This is also played by Andrew Tang and some other players against me, so it's not a surprise. But I always play bishop d7 against them. If you find on the database on chat.com, you can see my games in these kind of similar structures, where I just simply prevent him from playing like these two moves, right? And now this pawn is seriously hanging, for real. Do you have to learn tricks or algorithms to get good at chess? Tricks? Probably yes. Algorithms? Unlikely. I mean, you don't want to become a statistics or to become someone who just using algorithms or stats to insinuate others. I think you know what I mean, but okay, we'll stop with that. I want to make an instructive video, not something different. You know what I mean, right? So now this pawn is hanging. Rook b1 is the thing I see most of the time here. I can play knight to f6 and get back with my development. I guess it may be fair to still play various types of opening. In my speedrun, I realized that although it may be a good thing to do, if I try to just play one opening only, because I can just explain it in depth. But in the meantime, I think it's gonna also be a good thing to just like let the audience know about all the lies, all different things. So I think I will ask my audience, later on about what they want to see and what they want me to do in speedruns. Just play only one line or play all different stuff. Like for instance, I can play like d4 knight f6. I can play the Benoni. I can play some different things. People can have like the wider approach at the opening slice, right? So knight e5 now, just like maybe knight is here, or I can play queen b2, win a pawn. Right now, so these moves here are not working anymore. So that's why he just needs to defend a pawn. Normally, this guy is thinking for quite a long time. I really feel like he will just flag if he keeps playing with space. I guess I also can tell you a little bit about the time management after this game finish. Well, I am the player who also use the learning system a lot myself, so for me the line is obviously red. But overall, I think when you get to a high level of chess, it can get somewhat so boring to play slot all the time, right? Probably want to play, okay. I'm surprised that he think for like 3 minutes for this move. He should definitely play faster. Okay, now time to develop here. I don't know if he's scared or not, but actually I find something pretty odd here. Okay, now play faster as well. Good. Should be 2. So now start play faster and keep on develop his pieces. So we'll play bishop b6 here. Is what I play most of the time. Trade his little bishop and trying to finish my development at the same time. As for the 5 moves in situations, should look for pawn breaks. I think it should be better to find the way to develop own pieces. Normally, if you put the pieces into the best square available, you can be able to come up with a good plan. You know what I mean? G3 castles. Okay, so now we kind of finished with the development, right? It's time to start thinking about what we should do here to finish our development. So we have castles yet, which is we have castles already, which is like 60% of the opening things, you know. And now let's find what to do next. So now and both of us castles already, and the king is safe. I want to finish my development with a knight and cb8 here, but if I play here, the bishop is hanging, right? That can be a thing. Also, if I play like something weird here, my rook might not be doing much. So in this position, I think a very typical plan is trying to play something like e5, trying to strike in the center and trying to give my pieces some more space. So what we do here is take here first, g3. That's one. Please remember that it is a good thing to do only after your opponent castles. If he doesn't castles yet, don't do that, because you can allow his rook here to attack just like in h5, right? But now after you play this is actually a good thing to do. This, I think, is a super typical mistakes of black players who play against London, who want to trade the bishop here on g3. But you guys can only do it and should only do it when white is castles already. You know what I mean? Okay, so now I will play queen d6, ready to prepare for like here and e5. If I play here, he play knight to a4, right? Which can win the pawn due to a fork. Let's play here first, queen d6. Somehow, so white is somewhat passive, and he needs to find a way to get his piece as well too. Knight e5, knight c6. Just put pressure on his center and trying to get my pieces up, isn't it? Well, in fact, so white pressure is still okay here, I believe, but he will need to figure out a plan. Now, so if you play here, just take with the knight, right? f4 he play, cement the knight on e5, but the main problem is that this pawn here is also quite weak. In other circumstances, he can play c3, right? But now with knight c3, earlier right here, c3 is not happening, so now he need to play with like ed4 kind of, and play queen b4 to put pressure on him. Okay, so he played nice instead. I guess he was annoyed that his knight here is somewhat hanging, right? We play here first. So now we can surely play like here or here, capture us back the knight with a good game. But here, so I think my opponent might forget that I can just play here as well too, which I can call that an intermezzo or intermediate move or Zwischenjob, right, in German. So let's take here first. His knight is still hanging here, and now we are a pawn up. Well, take here in normal cases is not bad at all, especially if you see that his king is on the castles yet, or is on the castles. I will mention this in depth after the game. Ready for CB2. You can see now we are a pawn up, right? And our structures here are very safe. Rook B2. Okay, so now he wants to play Rook B7. You always need to ask yourself what does your opponent want, right? And try to stop that. So simple B6. The pawn is covered, I have safe positions, and now the plan can be quite straightforward. Doubling the rook here on a c3, on a c file. Let this pawn, I can also play like e5 very soon to make this pawn become winners, right? I think e5 is even better actually. Maybe I can play here right away to be honest, but okay. Let's just play something quite instructive. Defend the pawn first, and looking for pawn push later on. I want to teach you guys something instructive, not something that can be like, you know, a bit too hard, or something too perfect. Maybe what I'm teaching here is not for you at all. Most likely, yes. But I think they will be very instructive and you can understand things nicely, right? And now play e5. Push the pawn, which is a typical idea for black in this line. And now after we take it here, these pawns here can become major witnesses. Knight e4, you can just take here, I guess so. And then I will somehow double up my structures, right? Just so easy. Here I feel like black is better because he's a pawn up and he can do quite well here. I don't know what can be the right evaluation, but I'm sure black is doing very okay. Knight f5. Okay, so now just like make it easy here, take it for sure. And basically double up and bring pieces to the e file. He just had, I think, very weak pawns here. His pieces are also quite, I think, terribly placed. I can play like here right now, on good ideas here, and I think he's in big trouble. He will flag very soon. Very soon. I think right now, to be honest. Okay, g4. Okay, so that is a nice idea. In fact, I think the best way to play here probably is like ef4, and then go like knight e4 maybe. But okay, he's gonna flag anyway, right? Let's play queen c5. Attack his winners. Boom. Okay, so it is a game that I won on time. That was actually fairly rare things TBH. I feel like he should definitely play longer time control. You're right. Okay, so this is the game. The fun thing is that it's not over yet. Like I'm up a pawn, but it's not over yet. What's it, right? You can still try and play on. But okay, I will mention all the things that I can think of and also answer all you guys' question. Okay, first of all, so my opponent is looking for some d4 ideas and he wants to go for the London system. So here you can find my channel. I did have some videos about the anti-London repertoire, which I suggested knight f6, right? h4 and c5. This is what I recommended in my video. So the main trick is like knight f3, cd4, and now with e5, which is actually nice ideas, right? Now you fork the bishop and the knight, and here allow this one, and you win a piece, right? So this one I think is a good idea, and like you can surely play this one until you became like, I think even like 3000 rating maybe, probably. So here if you play like e3, you play queen to b6 again, right? Put pressure on both these pawns, and if you play here you can play g6 to get the bishop into this diagonal. You can find the detailed video of the anti-London, and you can see that this one I think will be giving you pretty good play. If you watch my video, I will post the link later on. So in the game I play d5, f4. Okay, so this line I play against GM Andrew Tang plenty of time. I can play here. He play e3. c5 now is somewhat, I mean, it's okay actually, but it will lead to huge complications after this line, like dc5, e6, b4. This line is, I think, very tricky. Like, I think the main line here, I think it's like, I think a5, c3, should be 7, ready 2, this, and then the main line, I think like, this one right, right? b6, right, b6. So b6 here, should be 4, this, b6, b7, group a3. You can see that it already look very complicated, right? The engine indicator is equal, but it is hard to play for black, to be honest. So I want to avoid the things, you know. I think I lost this position against Andrew Tang for at least like 5 games, you know. So that's why I try to avoid this. So that's why I think this one is like somewhat a better version, because now c5 in the pawn is covered, right? Which, I mean, is the thing. I see the reflection of the engine in the glasses. What the hell, man? I can tell you for sure that normally I will never turn the engine on when I trying to give you guys my thinking process, because I mean, like, technically speaking, I think it is good to tell you guys things from a human perspective, right? And you guys can understand things from what I can tell, although maybe it can be wrong, but as mentioned earlier, human perspective, isn't it? Okay, so back to the game. So here in the game, you play knight f3, c5, e3, fair enough, queen b6, attacking these 2 pawns, right? So now he can play various steps, maybe like b3, which I will play here as well too, play for the same thing, isn't it? When now, like, these light squares here somewhat become weakened, right? Queen c1 is also the same, I play the same thing, when the queen here is also quite misplaced. Knight c3 here is technically the best move, but he thought for so long. 3 minutes. Right? 3 minutes. So I put bishop d7 here in the game, bishop d7, to defend and prevent these 2 moves. Queen b2, knight b5 normally is no fun at all, when I think white can at least go for a draw with like knight here, rook b1, you know, at the very least, with repetition. Obviously here, so I think he can also, I think, play even like, I think something like rook b1 here, or like here, and like even here, for instance, right? Or you can play like a3 when my queen is very, very trapped, isn't it? So in the game, I avoided to take the material, instead of playing bishop d7. Rook b1, knight f6, keep on developing, bishop e2, bishop d6. Trip, bishop on f4. So in the game, he plays bishop g3, which is also super understandable. Before I trying to mention the game continuation, I want to tell you about the way to play here. Here, I'm pretty sure, I think GM Duda Christoph, he played against me like dc5 here, queen c5, takes and e4. And that's what I think GM Duda played against me, I believe. Also, this one should be the objectively best ideas here, but I think I can play here, with which I'm okay as well. The knight here somehow makes white's plan harder to be executed. So in the game, he plays bishop g3. So as I mentioned earlier for you guys, here I will not recommend you to play bishop g3, because right now, if you play here, white sometimes can try to attack right away on h5, right? Which is not so fun to see at this point. That's why you want to wait for him to castle here, taking g3, isn't it? When now the attack here is basically useless. Do you understand me? So that's why this is the idea here as well too. So here in general, if you play like a3 for instance, right? You can already play like maybe like a6, or I think this one actually is also a very useful move. or you can play rook c8 or rook e8 here. Just wait for him a little bit, because at some point he will run out of useful tempos without castling. So in the game, castles, takes. One more thing here in this game I can say is that White is clearly struggling with time management. For like move 5 and move 6, you can see, right? After move 4, he got 9 minutes and 40 seconds. But after move 6, here, okay, one moment. So this one, and here, right? He got 3 minutes and 45 seconds after move 6, you know? Which obviously was so long time thinking for my opponent. He definitely should think faster. For me, when you can see that you're already down by like 2 to 3 minutes, please speed it up. If you play so slow, you will flag in time eventually, right? Or you will not have time to play in some little crucial moments. Like for instance, knight c3 is a nice idea here, so thinking for long is fine. This one should be thought faster in my opinion. Defend a pawn first, you know. Or you can play something slow, something different as well too. Like maybe you will not be able to play the best move, but at least you can play something playable and save valuable time on the clock, right? For this game, I think my opponent, he went for like wrong or not so very good time management in my opinion. So the game here, bishop d7, 3-1, here, bishop g3, castles, takes here, and queen d6. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, my plan is to play e5 in this variation. In fact, this one I think is also a very good idea. To just, I think, go for a situation when you can unblock your bishop here and also get more space in the center. For instance, here, right? I will explain you the lines like here. For instance, a3, e5. Let's see now that obviously now black can obtain a strong center. White feels pretty passive. You can play like bishop here, d4, even like h4, right? For some pretty good attacking possibilities. In the game, you play knight e5, have like strong knight in the center, but somehow this knight doesn't have adequate defenses, right? f4 takes. Here, so the best way to play, I think, is like ed4, which you can play queen b4, attacking the pawn on d4, right? And force him to back down a little bit. Now here, I can just play like, for instance, this one, for instance, right? And then I can start play b5 before later on, play knight to e4 as well too. When it feels much easier to play for black, isn't it? It feels much easier to play for black. I start feeling like I'm talking a bit so fast, so I'm so sorry for that. Also, he should play maybe like knight to f3, when I can maybe think like knight to e4, and here, that's knight on f3, right? Also, I can even try maybe rook c8, and simply slowly bring my pieces out. Also, I can have like a strong maneuver like knight e7, knight f5, which I think my knight can belong to much better squares, isn't it? In the game, he play here. Just take the knight here first with an intermezzo, and now we win a pawn. e6, defend against his threats, and e5 in the game, right? When I'm able to open up the center and attack these weaknesses, isn't it? Attack here, create, bring out the rook, and he flagged this point. When now I think he's in big trouble already. g5 just queen e3, right? And knight to e4 is simple for us. And we are 2 pawns up, I guess so. But if you play something like f3, I play like here, and the pin also looks highly annoying, isn't it? Which, I mean, it's a thing. Okay, so in the game here, you can see we can learn a lot about the ideas for black against Linden, also some time management skills, some, I think, pretty instructive ideas, and also, I think, what I should do for black, right? Against this line. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is how things is. Let's take a look here at the game review, as I'm quite sure that I don't play that well. Take a look. Maybe like knight, okay, here. So yeah, you see, right? 95.9%. Obviously, you have some moves here that probably is not the best one. You can see here, so you see, right? The move here, that is not the best one for sure. But I think that my play is fairly human, isn't it? If I here, this stays here, you know, I can play better for sure. But okay, I think pretty understandable ideas. You know what I mean? So once again, guys, I hope you can enjoy the videos, enjoy the analysis, and enjoy the, you know, instructive moments. Hope you can find it fun, and you can feel free to give me any feedbacks on my YouTube channel. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for enjoying the videos. Thank you, and we'll see you later on. Well.